The Crusher versus the Executor, Part 4, Clash of Champions. Perhaps the final chapter of this legendary rivalry. Anybody who has followed the careers of these two men know that they have been wrestling for a very long time, going all the way back to the OWA, 17 years worth, all the way to the UWZ for the last year and a half. These two have had so many memorable moments over the years. In fact, we are going to show you the top 20 moments that the Executor and the Crusher have had together. Number 20, Executor gets powerbombed on the ground at SummerSlam 2. The Executor, who was the world champion at the time, fresh off his victory against the Dominator at the Great American Bash a month prior. These two would find themselves going at it again, only this time in a tag team match. Although the two weren't exactly feuding at the time, whenever these two are in the ring together, it is always hard hitting. Executor and the Suicidal would go on to win the match. However, the Executor didn't quite look like a winner when all was said and done.
Oh my God! Oh my!
The Executor would suffer not one, but two vicious powerbombs onto the ground, one of them of course being off the air. This would only be the beginning of the Executor's future back problems. Number 19, the Executor wins his first World Championship. At this point in time, the Executor was the only wrestler in the OWA who had not captured the world title. Backlash 2 was possibly the Executor's last chance at victory, having the best match in the business at the time. The match would have an exciting finish, with the Suicidal making his on-screen debut, giving the Executor the opening to capture his first world championship, thus ending the Crusher's 6-month title reign.
Oh, the execute bomb is over! 1, 2, 3, it's over! Oh my God! Ding ding ding!
Number 18, the epic slap before WrestleMania 17. From months prior, everybody knew the OWA was ending at WrestleMania 17, and you couldn't possibly end the business without the Crusher and the Executor having one final in-ring moment. As the two went back and forth in the promo, the Executor would surprise the Crusher with an epic slap.
We do always have a lasting impression on all the fans, even at each other.
Unfortunately, these two would not meet at WrestleMania 17 in the tournament. The moment is still never forgotten. Number 17, the Crusher versus the Executor in a street fight at Armageddon 1. This was the first ever street fight match in OWA history. It was also their first on-screen match together as well. A lot of history was being made in this match, especially the famous camera difficulty, which never showed the conclusion of the match. But as we all know now, the match ultimately went to a no contest.
Shut the chest.
Number 16, the Crusher versus the Executor in a Woods match at No Mercy 11. This was the 6th time these two would be hooking up that year, going back to the WrestleMania 10 match. Once again, another physical match between the two, but what people remember most is the vicious sidewalk slam the Executor took in the first minute of the match, giving him a back injury.
Sidewalk slam!
The Suicidal would make his big return to set up the Fatal 4-Way match at WrestleMania 11, where the Executor would end up missing a year of action due to the sidewalk slam injury. Number 15, the Crusher and the Executor's intense promo before WrestleMania 15. Although WrestleMania's 15 main event was a tag team match, it didn't stop the Executor and the Crusher from having yet another classic promo together, making the audience want to see this match at a WrestleMania once again.
And when you get me mad, I fight. And when I fight, I beat you. So you want some kind of point to make before WrestleMania 15, you better make it. Otherwise, you're beating around the bush. Well, the point might just very well be my shoulder through your stomach at WrestleMania. This isn't me versus you at Mania. This is not me versus you. This isn't WrestleMania 10.
Fortunately for the fans, they only had to wait one more year. Number 14, the two-man duo. Over the years, there have been many dynamic tag teams, such as Destiny, Exercido, The Final Action, but none of those teams would compare to the two-man duo. With the Crusher as the world champion and the Executor at his side, the two men were unstoppable, making easy work out of the likes of the Suicido, Kurt the Warrior, and even the Dominator. It was a pairing we never thought we'd ever see, given their history, but as they say, gotta let bygones be bygones sometimes. Obviously, we all know the two would split up heading to WrestleMania 10, but the question to this day is, will we ever see these two together again? Seems highly unlikely, but never say never.
Oh, come on. Look at that picture. Look at that picture.
Number 13, the Executor vs. the Crusher in a no disqualification match at King of the Ring. This was a very historic match, being that it was the first match to take place in an arena. Also, it was the first time these two had faced in a stipulated match since their epic street fight years ago. A very memorable match took place that night, but what's most remembered is the springboard spine buster through the announce table. A throwback to the WrestleMania 10 match where the exact same thing happened, only this time it was through the announce table.
Are you kidding me? Through the table!
Number 12, the Crusher vs. the Executor in a last man standing match at Judgment Day 5. This match was never originally going to take place. The only reason it had was due to the Suicido's injury he suffered at Backlash the previous month. With the championship being vacant, the two would fight to crown a new champion. What makes the match so memorable was that it was the very first time that anyone had taken a leap off the deck. Both men would take flight in this match, giving the crowd something to remember.
He's got him! Throw him through a table! Oh my god! Throw him the wood in his face!
Number 11, the Executor and the Crusher's moment at Final Encounter Fatal 4-Way match. With the two-man duo still intact at this point, the two found themselves in a Fatal 4-Way match for the championship. The Executor earlier in the night let the Crusher know that it was every man for themselves.
Wait a minute! There they go!
It was only a matter of time until the two had their moment in the ring, and it was just like old times, going at it again. Crusher would of course retain his championship, and the two-man duo also remained intact. Number 10, the Executor vs. the Crusher in a 2 out of 3 falls match at Judgment Day 11. This was the third match of the epic WrestleMania 10 series. Also, it was their second time facing in a 2 out of 3 falls match, the first one going all the way back to Judgment Day 2. What's so memorable about this match is the third fall. With each man winning a fall, it came down to the ladder match. Both men struggled to grab the title multiple times, but in the end, it was the Executor who would grab the title for the victory. Crusher obviously not pleased, but he would eventually get his title victory at the next pay-per-view, fully loaded. This is still a moment that fans still talk about to this day.
He got it!
Number 9, the chair shot heard around the world. Over the years, the Crusher had taken many chair shots to the skull, but none of them match up to the shot he took at Backlash 6 in the triple threat match. The Executor swung for the fences and nearly knocked the Crusher's head off. Crusher would go on to miss the next few months due to this chair shot.
My god!
Number 8, the rise of the Phoenix Files. Ever since the UWC started, the Executor has been a fan favorite with the support of his Wolf Pack. But all of that would change at Over the Limit when he brutally attacked the Crusher after the two of them had a classic match together, turning on all his fans, announcing that the Wolf Pack was extinct and that the Phoenix Files were born.
I laid the groundwork for a new era in the UWZ, and it will be known as the Phoenix Files.
Back in the OWA, the Executor had the Execute Times, the Emerald Law, and now the Phoenix Files. And the fans can't wait for it to end, but unfortunately, there is no end in sight. Number 7, the Iron Man match at WrestleMania 3. WrestleMania 3 was the first time the OWA had ever done an Iron Man match. In the coming years, we'd see 2 other Iron Man matches featuring the Crusher and the Dominator and the Dominator and the Suicider. This match has gone down in history as a turning point in the OWA at the time. With the 2 best going at it for over an hour, it was the greatest match in OWA history at the time, and to this day, still the best Iron Man match out of the 3.
Crusher retain the title here at Iron Man!
Number 6, the Crusher soaring flip at Execute Night 7. The Crusher over the years had developed a reputation of doing running flips from the ring onto his opponent, but the flip he did to the Executor at Execute Night 7 was like none other, soaring through the air, landing right onto the Executor's neck, nearly paralyzing him.
Holy crap! Flip!
Unfortunately, it wasn't enough for the Crusher to win because the Executor would retain his championship, but the flip is still worth 1,000 words. Number 5, the Executor introduced fire at Armageddon 17. The 2 found themselves in a familiar territory, going back to where it all began, back at Armageddon 1 in a street fight. This time around, the match was more physical, more brutal, and more bloody than ever before. Just when you thought you had seen it all, the Executor introduces fire. This was the first time in history fire had ever been used in a match, and it wouldn't be the last. The Executor would bring back fire years down the road. The flame shot nearly burning the Crusher to a crisp was one of the most shocking moments in OWA history.
Over the face!
Number 4, the Crusher captures the UWZ title at SummerSlam, with the Crusher being attacked at over the limit and brutally beaten at times up. This was perhaps his final shot to capture the gold. A 2 out of 3 falls match with the Executor naming the stipulations. The Crusher found himself at a disadvantage. It would come down to a Woods Chamber ladder match where the Crusher would finally conquer the Executor and win his 3rd UWZ title.
The new UWZ champion, the Crusher, has done it here at SummerSlam.
Obviously, we all know that the Executor has a rematch at Clash of Champions, but this was a nice moment, not only for the Crusher, but for the fans as well. Number 3, the Executor versus the Crusher at WrestleMania 10. Crusher taps out. These 2 are obviously no strangers at WrestleMania, having met at WrestleMania 3 in an Iron Man match years ago. With the 2-man duo splitting up in November, the 2 would clash in an epic war. But what would shock the world is the conclusion of the match. The Crusher up to this point had only submitted twice in his career via pass out, but never tap out. History would be made when the Executor did the unthinkable.
Crusher! No! No!
Although Crusher would get the last word to close the show, but it's like the saying goes, he who laughs last, laughs best. And the Executor to this day is still laughing. Number 2, WrestleMania 16. With this being the 3rd time these 2 would hook up at a WrestleMania, fans were anticipating how this one would turn out. With the Crusher winning at WrestleMania 3 and the Executor winning at WrestleMania 10, this would be the rubber match. Fans would call this match the greatest match of all time, nearly going an hour long once again.
Both men, double kick! Both men thinking the same thing. Both men down. But Crusher's he's on top of the Executor. That's it. Ding, ding, ding.
Crusher would walk away with the victory and the championship, but in everyone's eyes, they were both winners on this night. And last but not least, number 1. The famous splash off the deck. The Crusher, who had been feuding with Destiny at the time, was scheduled to face the Dominator at Survivor Series, but plans changed when it turned into an ambush instead. With the Executor and the Dominator laying out the Crusher, Executor would then direct a little traffic and setup which would be the most famous splash in history. So famous in fact that it required 3 camera angles.
Splash!
The Executor jumped nearly 40 feet in the air through the Crusher's unconscious body. It's a moment that was talked about all over social media, and it got over 1 million views on YouTube, making this moment the #1 moment. So there you have it, the top 20 moments the Crusher and the Executor have had together over their 20+ year careers. With Clash of Champions on the horizon, fans are expecting another special moment to occur, with this being the 4th and final match together. So fans might be wondering if this will be the last time these two will ever face each other. If it is, I'm sure they will leave it all in the ring, but if it's not, fans will be very delighted about it. Who will be victorious at Clash of Champions? Find out on pay-per-view. Until our next top 20 moments between these two, it's so long for now. Feel free to subscribe and like this video as well. May the best man win at Clash of Champions.